when I played Trespasser, the first time like 20 years ago on Windows XP, you know, apparently from what I read, like it's had problems even as early as Windows XP, but I don't really remember doing anything special to get it running on XP. At least for me, it as far as I can remember, it pretty much just worked. Yeah, I probably had to do a couple things, and maybe I had to set the display mode to 16-bit or whatever the fuck it might have been. But for shit like that, XP would still work for the most part. And in Windows 7, I don't remember having too bad of problems with it either. But as I said, it's been forever since I last played it. And if I ever did use a mod at all, it most likely would have been something like that ATX mod or whatever the fuck. And the thing is, I tried looking for stuff as early as like '05 or whatever, but even Trescom's website doesn't have anything like that on it, like in the relevant date range. That seems like it would have been something I would have used. But I get so tired of that. It's like NVIDIA panel fucking up over basic, like that never happened on XP or 7. I've been using NVIDIA Inspector forever, right? As they just break shit for no reason. And then on top of that, these pseudommunities. Like, you know, a lot of reviews now, they'll make of these old video games just because they want to make money off of ChomoTube. But I remember playing it years ago, but everyone loves to mention the dedicated community of Trespasser players, even though the game like totally sucked or whatever. And for me, the game is exactly what it should be. Of course, if we forget about the non-consensual gameplay modifications that these pseudo patches want to inflict. Like why is that not an optional thing? Like it's a zip file. It's like we'll have two folders and have one of them say with the bullshit we changed just the way we want it to be or like whatever, right? But whatever. But the thing is, dude, all these communities are fake, right? Like I remember one of the videos I watched, they mentioned Trescom or whatever the fuck the site is called. I remember that from all the way back in the day when I first fucked with Trespasser because I had been aware of it, but I was aware of it at a time when I didn't have a PC that could have played it. Right, there was a point where I had some bullshit computer with like Windows 95 on it, but dude, that thing couldn't have fucking ran Trespasser. And even in like '05 or whatever, even in the United States, you weren't going to find that fucking game anywhere. It's been kind of true abandonware forever. So like this time, I used to have a download of it, but I don't know. I went and found another one because I mean, let's be real. Like you couldn't pay for that fucking game even if you wanted to. But I remember Trescom from back in the day. One of the videos that I saw, like the first one, I guess I don't know if they ever all mentioned it, but whichever one I saw that first mentioned it, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that site. And it's one of the few sites that looks kind of similar, or pretty much the same as it used to, as far as I remember. But I mean, this kind of just helps to prove the point. It's like these motherfuckers show up just to make money talking about a game that they probably never even played, even remotely close to its release. But then you got these fake communities that they just show up to do their fucking. It's like, dude, there's like a Deus Ex mod literally called Deus Ex Revision. And they just want to fuck up everything about the game, right? And it's like, all right, well, if you want to do that, cool. Well, I mean, at least they called it Revision, right? But if they, they don't call this Trespasser the game the way we wanted it, right? But all these fake communities, these humans are all child fucking, psychopathic apes. And I've tried too many times in my life to be a part of all sorts of different fake ass communities. Trespasser wasn't one of those, but I mean, I wouldn't even like. I don't bother at all anymore. But I especially wouldn't waste my time with that because I mean they just prove that they want to have their bullshit patch that's actually a mod, but they don't want to just explicitly tell you that, or they want to put it somewhere that like you shouldn't have to even look that far to read about that, right? Like I mean, I'm one of the ones that actually reads the fucking manual with stuff. But this is something I shouldn't have to read the manual about. All right. This is not some obscure Linux program where I'm, having to use the help and then pipe it to grep to find, whichever part I'm looking for. Like I have to do a lot with certain programs. This is basic shit that should be right up front. I don't even remember seeing it on the page for it. But so, Trescom, they can fucking go to hell. And, that's why I don't associate, the dedicated fan. Well, dude, it's like every other fucking game I've mentioned in recent memory, where they're just all fake, right? Like with music I listen to, I always sit here and wonder when I see the human apes that want to, just, inoculate anything that I find interesting. I always want to know what exactly is there about this stuff that appeals to these fucking criminals, right? Because they just show up to fuck up everything. And if I try to be a part of their piece of shit community, they would be telling me to fuck off. And it's like, well, yeah, because I don't belong around you humans, because I'm not evil like you. All right, and I'm not just, they're evil because they put the two-weapon thing in some 30-year-old video game. That's not even the point. But motherfuckers can pretend if they, because they don't have a real counter-argument to what I'm saying. But, just whatever on that. And it's just, but, so because I'm trying to find a config file option to disable texture filtering to make it more like, the software mode or whatever, I end up finding that out, and then after that trying to find some other way to do it, because I couldn't even find any information if there is any, if there even is there's nothing in the options in the game for it. So then when trying to pursue some alternative route with like NVIDIA control panel or NVIDIA inspector, like even if they're like, you can choose what to, like, I'm pretty sure there's a way to actually force it to point filter, but I hadn't checked that, but I was going to set up a profile for it, because if nothing else, it's like, well, if it's running DirectX 9, Direct 3D, whatever, I mean, I could, limit the frame rate at least, with, NVIDIA inspector, or like with Max Payne. Once I got DG Voodoo set up correctly, then NVIDIA Inspector started working to limit the frame rate with it. So, like, if I had to, like, put it through DG Voodoo or something like that as well, then that would have been fine. But it's like I get to find that out after I've already played the game twice, and then try to pursue an alternate fix to whatever I'm looking for. And like, now also my NVIDIA panel is fucked up. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? It's just, the chomoverse just always finds all these new interesting ways to just spit in my fucking face with everything, right? And for whatever reason, I don't know, just the context of Trespasser, and various other games I've been thinking about, has had my mind on, different music from, the time period I've been listening to, stuff that I don't listen to as much anymore. I was revisiting that, but also for some reason overlaps with my, remembering of Terry Davis and his stuff. Mostly for a reason of that's like, I just think sometimes it's like, fuck, dude, like I mentioned in another video, which also kind of helped prompt me to think about Terry Davis, was the idea that if I knew how to program, maybe to some degree, I could deal better with some of this bullshit, right? I mean, a big part of it is I don't use my computer is not like a physical sandbox anymore. In the past, I was more than happy to reinstall the OS, take the thing apart, put it back together, change stuff just to see what happened. I'm so past that. I just want the fucking thing to work, right? It's like I won't do anything with it that would require me to restart. I do everything to avoid that. I mean, the fact that I can get a year plus uptime out of fucking Windows, I mean, that should be impressive, right? So imagine what I could get with fucking Linux. But at the same time, I don't want to be, I don't want to deal with Linux. And I'm not going to be one of these pretentious fucks who's like, they install Arch just to say they have it installed. But, thinking about the programming stuff, It also kind of started where I had, use a hex editor to edit some DLL for Painkiller a month or so back that I mentioned. Started making me think about programming and like different shit like that. So I was trying to find a hex editor that would also, basically, show the, machine code instructions, or, like an assembly decompiler, whatever the fuck. But it reminded me how, like, before I've used like Commodore 64 emulators to fuck with that, you know. Um, and I've done it before. I'll fuck with like the poke command, or fuck with basic with it, right? So it's like 20, 20, 10 fuck you, 20 go to 10, or like whatever, right? But I don't know. I've just never been that interested in programming, and to whatever extent I would be, it is more of a practical consideration. It's never something I found that appealing for its own sake. It's not like a level design or something where like that, where I just like to do it just to do it. But I've tried it to get myself to do that, but I don't know. Just being on the idea of programming in general made me think about that dude, and just how much of a genius he was. But it's the same thing with Trespasser, or like kind of anything else. This bullshit community he has around himself, where it's like everybody just showed up to laugh at him, calling everybody like Jewish niggers or like whatever, right? They never really cared about the operating system or whatever. I remembered hearing about it when it was still called Lusthos. And that's what I remember the name as. And I even fucked with it back in the day, but I'm not a hobbyist programmer, so something like that, just it didn't really have much of a use for me. But it also makes sense, it's supposed to be basically like a 64-bit, like true Commodore 64, right? Like 64-bit, ring zero, all that. And of course, anybody that truly understands computers knows that giving the average individual is a fucking idiot, and giving, the average end user ring zero is a disaster waiting to happen. But when you consider the point of the OS, being ring zero is exactly what you want. So like if you're like a true power user, that's what I think all the time. It's like, fuck, like, wouldn't it be nice if I could just do what the fuck I want? Like, even with these smartphones, the first smartphone I had was a Google ZTE Speed. And when you plugged it into USB, it just showed the file system. So you could delete something off the phone that was like critical and brick it. So because they realize everyone's a fucktard, and also they could use it as a basis of control, now it's all emulated file systems as a mass transfer protocol. And if you know anything about computers, shit like that just pisses you off. Like Windows now, like, I mean, you're going to access deny me changing some basic option in NVIDIA Inspector, or even the control panel itself. And it's like, fuck, wouldn't it be nice to have control of my own system? But yeah, I always ran Windows, full privileges or whatever, because I know what the fuck I'm doing. And, I used to work on computers, and it was nice. The tools I had, I could boot into like TinyXP or whatever. And if something, Windows didn't want me to delete it, even now I could do that, just delete it. And the problem is, they're tools that run off of BIOS, and they don't work with UEFI, and most stuff doesn't have a legacy BIOS mode. So I can't really do that now. I mean, I guess I could boot a Linux environment, but whatever. I just never felt like it. But when you consider the fact of what, Lustos, Temple OS, whatever is actually supposed to be, ring zero and everything else about it makes total sense. It's for programmers, hobbyist programmers, and it's like, oh, you want a TCP IP or whatever? Well, fucking write it then, right? Like, if you can't do that, then it's not the OS for you. And I sort of regret not interacting with him back in the day, especially because I was homeless at points in areas that he had been, just not at the same time as him. And just the missed interactions I could have had or whatever. But the dude was a true genius, and like, I actually admire him, and I like this stuff for the sake of what it actually is, instead of all this narrative bullshit of these humans. I'm so fucking tired of them.